Are you looking for an audiophile earphone that does vocals amazingly? Yes, well, this is the video for you. I've listened to over 400 IEMs now, made my own as well. And today I'm going to be revealing the best audiophile earphones when it comes to vocals, singers, male vocals, female vocals. Let's just get into it. Starting off, we are looking for an earphone that has great vocal extension, power, clarity, details when it comes to the artist. It shouldn't be overly bassy or thick or overly bright, fatiguing, energetic, but still have enough detail in the treble, enough extension, and also enough fullness. Starting at around $25 for our all-rounder IEM, we have the Tangent Bunny and the Zero Ultima 3.5 version. I specifically chose the 3.5 version because of the linear mid-bass glide. It has less sub-bass, meaning you're gonna hear the vocals better, but you still get the fullness in the lower mids and the mid-bass since it's filled in, and the treble extension also pretty smooth, extended, does both male and female vocals very well. Then after those four female vocals, for something that is cleaner, has a more sweeter and airier tonality when it comes to the extension in the upper mids, we got the SIMGA EW100 piece. Not only does it have great power and extension to the final notes, but the low end is also tamer, which means it doesn't get in the way, it doesn't distract you from the female artist. And lastly, we got the Tongzu 102 bass edition for a more male vocal, warmer, thicker tonality that has more body to the notes. They still have the extension in the vocals, but you just get a little bit more of that low end oomph without it being overly bassy, and you also get a pretty good packaging with the cable and tips as well. Moving on, at around $50 for our all-rounder, we have the Confine Clean SV. These are very versatile when it comes to the tuning nozzles. It can go from a cleaner, more tamer sound to a slightly more vocal centric that pops out more depending if you use the black ones or the silver or the gold ones, which is why they are great as a versatile and balanced all-rounder set. Then as for some female vocals, we have the EPZ Q1 Pros. These are similar to the SIMGA EW100, but just has a little bit more clarity, a little bit more detail when it comes to the final extension, the upper mids. Overall, these will do the job very nicely if you want a sweet and clean female vocal presentation. Another option would be the SIMGA EW200. These are slightly more colored, they're brighter, they have more sparkle and more energy when it comes to the treble, the upper mids. They have a slightly sharper imaging and transience to the overall sound. They are slightly brighter, which might be an issue for some people. And lastly, we got the Confine Clean OGs. These are essentially a bassier version of the SV, slightly tamer in the treble, less airy and detailed, less balanced compared to the SVs, but you get more, body, more impact and thickness to the male vocals. It's not going to be as technical and clean, no pun intended, as the SVs, but it's still extended, it's smoother now, and also you get more of a impact and just more body and no weight when it comes to the male artists. Then moving on, at around $100, we have the Full Magic 1 and the Tangent Nora for our all-rounder, balanced, natural, smooth, but still extended vocal playback. Both of these have a tamer sub-bass region that has more of that, mid-bass hump and glide into the upper mids, into the vocals. You get the smoothness, you get the natural timbre when it comes to the treble extension. Overall, for an all-rounder that does both male and female very well, these are gonna be a great option. After those, if you want something a bit brighter, airier for female vocals, has that like sweetness and ethereal factor to the sound, give the SIMGA EM6L or the EA500 LMs a shot. Both of these are going to be brighter leaning. The EM6L is going to be smoother overall, and the LM is going to be slightly more sparkly and sharp when it comes to the transients. And if you do EQ, the EM6L are incredibly smooth and amazing for EQ as well. So overall, very good options. An honorable mention here would be the Hydus MK12 with the red nozzles. They are more of a warm, leaning, thicker, smoother sound that scales incredibly well. I do recommend them at higher volume specifically because of the tamer upper mids, but you still get enough of that energy and power as you scale them up, and the mid bass, the no way, the fullness in the sound is just very good when it comes to male vocals overall. Then after those, at around $200, we got the EPZ P50s and the 7Hz Clinical Divine for our all-rounder vocal-centric IEMs. Both are equally extended and powerful in the vocals, very clean and natural and balanced, but the Divine is going to have more of a slightly sharper transience and attack to the end notes. Aside from that, they are very similar. An honorable mention would be the Cranier Daybreaks and the Meze Alba. These two are very similar to the P50s, but they just have a little bit more of a V-shaped sound, slightly more sub-bass extension, slightly more treble, overall less emphasis in the vocals. And because we are doing a vocal video where I'm gonna go with the one that has the most vocal clarity and focus. That aside, if you want some sparkly, well extended, open, very detailed female vocals, give the Hydus MP145 Pro a shot, specifically with the red bass nozzles, because the other ones might be a bit too bright due to the energy when it comes to the upper mids. I personally found the red bass nozzle tip configuration is the best balanced while still giving you that slight sparkliness and energy to the female vocals. Another option would be the electric condenser 4 on sale. These are going to be smoother, airier when it comes to the treble presentation, slightly bright leaning like the MP145 Pros, but they're just gonna be less sharp, less in your face with the imaging and the upper mids. Overall, a smoother and slightly cleaner listen that's still very extended, still very beautiful and sweet when it comes to female vocals. Then lastly, we got the ZGAT Odyssey 2s for male vocals. These are essentially a bassier, slightly warmer version of the EPZ P50s, but you still get the focus and the clarity in the vocals. They also scale incredibly well. I highly recommend them with scaling at higher volumes. The immersion is very good. An honorable mention here would be the Confined Armor. These are a lot darker than all the IEMs on the list, but you still get a vocal centric sound with volume. You do need to scale these up, but give it some volume, give some juice, and these come alive and they scale very well as a balanced, clean, darker, immersive, high volume set. Moving on, at around $350 for our all-rounder set, we have the Tantrum Soda in the bass tip configuration. These are very smooth. They have more of a mid-bass centric sound, not too much sub-bass, doesn't get in the way of the vocals. Basically, the overall vibe of these sodas is that it is natural, it's smooth, it has good fullness, good no weight, but also has the extension in the vocals to be versatile enough for both male and female vocals at a mid to slightly higher volume. On the other hand, if you want something a bit cleaner or maybe a bit brighter, airier in the sound, give the Binary EP321 a shot, as well as the ZGAT Horizons. The main difference here is that the 321s are going to have a more textured and slightly sharper presentation when it comes to the treble. Again, both of these are still very natural, they're still pretty smooth. It's just that the 321 feels a little bit less smooth than the Horizons, whereas the Horizons are going to be airier, they're going to be a bit brighter. So depending on if you like a more textured sound or if you like a more smoother and brighter sound, both of these are going to be a pretty good option. And then finally, for male vocals, I would recommend the Zenz T Pros. They have the thickness, the heaviness, and the no weight while still being extended, detailed. They have the transients in the imaging, the power in the vocals as well. Overall, just works very good for a male artist. An honorable mention here would be the ZGAT Arcanus on sale. These are actually my favorite vocals under $500 personally. They are very unique in the treble presentation. It has that like slightly goosebump feeling to the bite, the end notes, the consonants, but the extension, the clarity to the vocals are still great since they scale very good. Immersive, you get the extension with scaling, and then you get the little bit of goosebump treble on top. Moving on, at around $500, this is where I think most people should stop at. If you're looking for an all-rounder that's clean, sweet in the vocals, good texture when it comes to the artist, have a slight airiness to the sound as well, then I would recommend checking out the new EPZ 550s. These are essentially a better version of the original The Audio Oracles. You get a slight bite to the end consonants, adds that extra bit of texture, but it is still pretty airy, still smooth overall, not too boosted. Another option here would be the Iovo Layer if you want a slightly smoother but still full, thicker than the cleaner sound on the EPZ stuff. It also has ESTs, so probably the best value on the list here is also a great all-rounder in general. Whereas on the other hand, if you want something that is a little bit fuller but still has the power and extension, better for male vocals, I would recommend giving the Sophia's RS5 a shot. These are going to be a slightly thicker and fuller version of the 550s while giving you the power, the extension in the vocals, and slightly less textured overall than the 550s. But if you're looking for a male vocal that has great body, great fullness, great timbre, and also great power in the vocals, the RS5 OGs are still very good. And then lastly, if you're looking for a little bit more sparkle, slightly more brightness to the sound while still maintaining the clarity, the cleanness, any low end, any extension, any vocals, give the Zen's Top Pro a shot. Not only are these highly technical for the price, but the texture is also on par as the 550s, but you just get a little bit more of a sparkle and brightness to the sound now. Then lastly, for our endgame IEMs at around $1,000, for our all-rounders, we have the IO Cielos and the The-Audio Monarch Mark IIs. The main difference here is that the Cielos are going to be slightly more textured and sharper when it comes to the imaging. You get more of a bite and contrast when it comes to the upper mids, whereas the Monarch Mark IIs are going to be slightly airier, slightly smoother when it comes to the upper mids. Then after those, we got the Lecture Mystic 8 when it comes to female vocals. These are still the benchmark, incredibly smooth for the treble, even though it is slightly bright leaning, slightly airy. The vocals aren't super forward, they scale pretty good as well. Performance, resolution, all endgame level, but it just has that slight extra bit of sparkle, brightness, and airiness. These are essentially a better version of the Elysian Divas for cheaper as well, and smoother as well, and less shouty as well. So overall, just a better IEM than the Divas. And so far, I haven't heard anything about, channel imbalance and QC issues unlike the Divas. An honorable mention would be the Dunu Glacier. These are going to be slightly more V-shaped. They have more sub bass, they have more forwardness, more energy when it comes to the vocals, the upper mids. The imaging pops out a bit more. Overall vocal clarity is going to be more in your face kind of listen. They might be a bit fatiguing to some people. I personally found the Mystic 8 just to be a better, more refined, tuning for female vocals. But if you do want something that is a all-rounder but also good for female vocals as well, then the Glaciers are still pretty solid. And then lastly, for male vocals, we got the Feel FX17. These have a linear mid-bass glide that's pretty full. They are on a slightly warmer leaning side, but the timbre, the note weight, the impact is very, very textured. The treble is also airy, extended, it's smooth. You get that dreamy, like slightly warm tonality, but still with clear vocals, which just makes it very good, very natural, very enjoyable listen when it comes to male artists. And finally, an honorable mention for male vocals would be the Meze Astros. These are a bit on the pricier side given it's a single DDIEM, but they are incredibly immersive. They scale probably the best on the list for the endgame IEMs. And with scaling, the stage is not only very wide, but you hear the echoey and delayed reverb effect in the vocals. So it's a very unique listen if you want a more different kind of IEM. But that aside, that is all for this ranking. I hope this video, this guide was helpful. I hope you can find your endgame vocal IEM. If you have any other recommendation, feel free to drop them below. But aside from that, thanks for watching guys, and I will see everyone in the next video.
Shout out to Mr. Dom Q, Zenu, Birak, Walker Standard, User, Tsukasa, Guavaju Spain, Polly J, Mr. Gorillas, CT Jack, Henry Claudia, Cinema Horse, 777ZK, Obi, PM the Wizard, Treble Extended, Mad Herc, TR8107, Shem Bakley, Addy672, Michael G, Trackstar, Raphael, Ori73, Juniper, Ryan, Nadim, Chimika, Raj, Javier, Gailbog, Ocean, BC Knight, AK131, MN Gelato, Unbalanced, Victor Ken, Toy Cog, Hakase, JRX, Samuel, John Simon, Archie, Sir Eisen, LL Here, JPLA, Blue Runner, Firito, Watjo, Spinner, Sam Z, Raj, Yaboy, Etune, Grizzly, Leanne, Mark M, Syracuse, Francis, It's Mark, Hedgehogs, Kuya Josh, Net Zero, Nurem, Urian, Benjamin, Hightech, and Bozardo. Thank you guys so much for the support.